Baba knows the way. For Joseph, Baba, Ifa. Baba knows the way. We follow the signs. He walks with the Orisha through sacred lines. He speaks with the ancients. He honors the drum. He carries the wisdom where we all come from.
Hey family, thank you for tuning into Our Roots podcast with Joseph Baba Ifa. Where only the strongest roots see the light, brought to you by Botaniga Candles and more. If you haven't had the opportunity, hit that subscribe button. What's up, Phil?
Yo, what's going on, man? Happy Sunday, everybody.
Happy Sunday, dog. Another one in the books.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And getting in the books, talking about the books, you know, I love to read.
Okay.
But
As do I.
yes, I just read a book too called You Can Soar.
You can soar?
Yeah, download that on Audible, guys, if you can. I'm an audiobook person, but
Oh, that's big.
I know that's off topic. But anyway, join our membership program. Real easy.
Absolutely.
Great deals there. We got 16 or 1,700 videos on our platform here. So obviously there's a lot in there. Extra shows, discounts on merch, early releases and stuff. Joseph will make videos just responding to certain comments. So if you really want him to elaborate a little deeper on your comment, tag him or you know, say, hey, answer this one, you know, especially if you're a member, and members comments get priority too. So make sure you go ahead and do that. So join our membership program.
Absolutely. And what's the soar book about?
So it's a story. It's a biography about this woman named Amanda.
Okay.
And she essentially grew up a cholo.
A what?
A chola.
Okay.
Yeah. And she went to military, with a lot of abuse, and then she met a really great husband, and I don't want to reveal everything, but it's a story of triumph, downfall, and achievement. So it's very good. It's called You Can Soar, and SOAR is an acronym, so it's S.O.A.R. Yeah.
Okay.
So
Was this something that you picked up now that you're going through your kidney journey?
Yeah, well actually she's local. So I met her locally.
Oh wow.
And then she's like, hey, I have a book. And I'm like, oh, give me the book. But yes, we met through that. And if you're wondering what Joseph was talking about, I have stage 5 kidney disease.
Yeah.
Recently diagnosed back in March. And I'm going through a lot of processes. It's very overwhelming. I'm documenting everything, so I have a lot of videos that are already out. If you want to see some of them, just go to kidneyforphil.com. All the information is there. So if you're interested in being a donor or just want to know about donation just in general, everything is there. And yeah, so it's been the community has been very, very good to me. Very good to me so far.
As they should be, sir. You're a model citizen and human being.
Thank you.
Yeah, but no, and apart from that, guys, the membership program lets somebody know about it. Workshops are coming up. Very excited about that. But today's episode is about Yemaya, our divine mother, right? About Yemaya and motherhood. And we're going to go over, kind of like we did with Shango, King of Kings, and all of those patakis that had to do with his, royal predestined hurrah. We're going to go over all of the patakis that touch on Yemaya's maternity. So
if you haven't watched that episode, go back and watch that, because that was like a fever dream of information. Yeah. That was so much stuff.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Especially with the shorts you were putting on, when the world was ending and all that other stuff.
I try to make the titles as clickbaity as possible.
Oh, they're great. They're great. They're impactful.
Good.
But this one holds a special place for me, being that my godmother, Dulce Olomidara, actually has a Yemaya done. And my wife Erica's godmother has Yemaya done as well, Miyale. And we've come in contact with Yemaya's maternity firsthand. Couldn't have picked a better godmother, either of us. The thing with Yemaya is she's complex, right? Because in the Lugumi tradition for the longest time, she's seen as an ocean deity, right? But, ancestrally in Yoruba land, she is a river deity. And we're both right. Because when you look at Odus like Iwori Mei, Iwori Bosaso, Osatrupong, it actually speaks of the union between Yemaya and the Orisha Olokun, specifically in his male manifestation, being that Olokun has male and female paths, which has been recognized on both sides of the aisle when it comes to Lukumi and Isheshe. You know, the story basically is the same one, kind of refurbished amongst all these signs, where Yemaya actually became the woman of confidence of Olokun. And because of it, he wanted her to be his personal representative on Earth, being that he would occupy the depths. And he wanted her to handle everything that was visible. You know, like if you look at the Odu of Ika Otura or Ika Fogero, it speaks of how the first 7 layers of light that penetrate within to the ocean are the dominion of Yemaya, and everything below that, which has an absence of light, her husband Olokun's. Now, when you look at the dynamic of Olokun specifically, you know, Badala technically is the father of the Orishas, right? Because he provided that which was necessary to make them. But when you really look at who the father of the world is, it's really Olokun, being that, you know, the earth is 70% water. It was at one point 100% water. I'm not sure if you've seen this recently, Phil. There's actually a planet out there and somewhere in the sky that's just one big ocean.
What?
Yeah, I saw a short of it recently. It's called T0194, whatever. It doesn't even have a name.
Kevin Costner's Water World?
Maybe. And
You're too young for that.
it was pretty. I am. It was pretty wild because you're looking at it and all you see is just these rolling tsunamis. And he's like, "This is, you know." So Olokun probably has his own planet. But if that's the case, and Yemaya was his predilect wife, the one he preferred the most, she became mother of the world that way as well, because she handles the surface of the water, right? And without water, what are we? I mean, we're also 70% water ourselves as human beings. So that also is another attribute that she has that that can put her in the running for mother of the world. You also have concepts. That's also why she's associated as an ocean deity, apart from being a river deity as well. So she has that duality. And, you know, without the ocean, what are we? I mean, technically, some people would even hypothesize that whether we descend from fungi or we descend from amphibians, without water, you know, it's impossible. Then you also have the concept that has to do with Obatala, where, you know, some people say that through the interaction between Obadala and Yemaya, everyone descended, right? Where she's seen as mother of the world. Some people say that Yemaya got put in there because of a degeneration of, you know, a path of Obadala or Orisha that's known as Yembo or Yemu, right? But also another attribute to her, being in the running for mother of the world. So looking at the role that water plays, the different gentlemen that she was affiliated with at the dawn of creation, this is why she's seen as you know, mother of the world, right? So there's various patakis. Yemaya actually came down in the Odu Babai Worimeji, and you know, this gives her a position of autonomy and also being exalted within the pantheon, because in that Odu, Olodumare, and as well as Olokun, was looking for somebody to be able to govern Earth, right? And they were having a lot of difficulties because every Orisha they were giving the task to was failing. So Yemaya heard what was going on, and she performed divination in heaven. And the Odu Babai Worimeji was revealed, where Ifa told her if she performed sacrifice, she was going to be able to get this position, you know, that was unparalleled and unmatched. She performed the sacrifice, and when she descended from heaven to earth, she descended at a beach, they say, right on the sand where the sand and the water meet. And at that point, you know, Olodumare looked and Olokun looked, and we were like, you know. Now, mind you, this is also a great example of Ifa's equality as well, because all of the male Orishas had struck out, and, you know, it was her turn. So when they interviewed her, they were like, how would you handle this situation? What would you do here? You know, all of these different things. And she gave really different, really innovative, progressive responses. And they looked at each other and they said, hey, man, we really don't have any other options here. And to be frank with you, maybe putting a woman in power might do us well. So that's exactly what they did. And Iwori Meji is where Yemaya came down and governed the earth. And everyone applauded her, everyone praised her, everyone appreciated her, because she was able to bring peace, she was able to bring prosperity. And that's what she still does till this point in history. I mean, Yemaya you know, she's kind of a different energy, you know, and I mean, me being somebody on the yellow team, you can see the contrast between, you know, Yemaya, Oshun, Oya. She kind of occupies her own space. She's a very grand Orisha. She's exemplified by the swan, right, or Osi, as it's identified, and ultimately in all of its manifestations, all the way to the duck. But once again, if you look at the animal that is Pepeye, or the duck, it's an amazing mother, right? And they say that the duck is the manifestation of Yemaya in nature. Whether you look at Odus like Otura Pompeyo or Otura Iwori or Sache, you know, there's various ones that mention the duck. And the duck is always with her ducklings. You know, they follow her, she protects them, she nurtures them, all of those things. And, you know, if you look at that animal and you think it embodies a person, it's Yemaya. So that is the embodiment of what is maternity. She saved the world multiple times. She was able to talk Olokun out of drowning the world multiple times. That's why she's seen as the mother of the earth, and why she's seen as an ocean deity as well, because she was able to sway Olokun and Olodumare away from drowning everybody multiple times. And one of those Odus is the Odu of Oshesa, right? And the Odu of Oshesa was where Olodumare and Olokun, they were completely tired of the behavior that was occurring on earth. And they said, you know, we're just going to drown it and we'll start over again. You know, typical men. Let's throw out everything. Let's destroy everything. And
Redo Mulligan.
yeah, it's over with. Yeah, we'll go back to hole one, new cigar, you know, and keep it moving. But Yemaya was very preoccupied with this, because at this specific manifestation, which is the one we're living now that didn't get drowned out, she's like, man, this has been going on for a while. To lose all of this work over this emotional response just because of a couple people's behaviors not being in line with what Olodumare envisioned, she said, we need to think about this because we're about to obliterate Earth. So she went and she spoke with Olodumare and said, you know, I've heard of your plans. I really don't want you to do this. And he said, no, I'm doing it. And she said, I will do anything to avoid this. And he said, well, give me that which is most prized. And she actually performed a mastectomy, and she removed each of her breasts. She cut them off.
Oh, wow.
And she offered both of them, where one's name was Adi and the other one's name was Mu, right? And when Olodumare saw this happen in front of him, he was completely taken aback. And he looked, and at that moment, he realized that what he was proposing was completely unnatural, right? And he saw the sacrifice his preferred daughter gave for her children on earth. You know, he felt horrible. He said, you know, I won't do it, but, you know, I feel horrible about your sacrifice and all these different things. You know, and, you know, she was able to stall that and, you know, basically preserve us till this point. When you look at the name Yemaya, it's broken down from Yemoja, which is broken down from Yeyeomoeja, which means the mother whose children are the fish. When you look at this Pataki of Ochesa, I mean, she gave the ultimate, just like all mothers do, you know, whether it's through breastfeeding, whether it's waking up at 3 a.m. to feed these children, you know, whatever it is, Yemaya saw what her children were doing, and she was willing to forgive them because, she, you know, it's like a mother's hope. It's like, you know, they're not doing the right thing right now, but we have to be patient with them as well because, you know, people will go through stages, children go through stages, and we have to be patient with them. Luckily, mothers are patient. Luckily, mothers are emotional. And it's not that fathers aren't, but the woman by nature with estrogen and just intuition and the spirituality that comes from them descending from water, like all of us, just puts them in a better position to be able to nurture that. I mean, you know, when you look at her sacrifice, it's very symbolic. You know, she sacrificed that which was most feminine, her breasts. And it's, you know, the act of breastfeeding. She really fed the world. She gave everything of herself to see her children well. There's no other Orisha that, you know, gave those specific, you know, aspects of herself. Where Ochung did great things for humanity. Oya did great things. All of the other women did amazing things for humanity, but Yemaya's sacrifice is second to none. It's also where the concept of Adimu comes from. You know, Adi being a grease and Mu meaning to consume. One way of translating that is where the contracted or compound word of adimu comes from, which is that of offering, right? So she was the mother that offered. She was the mother that gave. So till this day, we commemorate it after the name of her two children, or, her two breasts that were offered to Olodumare as a way to save Earth. So really epic pataki. That's in the Odu Ochesa. Yemaya. Why is she the divine mother? Why is she the mother of the world? She also has a name. It's known as Iyamila Deo, which means my mother wears the crown. She was exalted because of her maternity, especially with her association to water and the way she treated people, and the way people feel for her. Very emotional Orisha, very nurturing Orisha. When you look at the Odu of Obeyono or Obesuru, it means Obe is patient. And one of the things Yemaya was with humanity was patient. So there's a pataki there in Obeyono where people were going hungry, right? And they were starving to death. There was famine all over the world. And Yemaya is hearing this and seeing this and all these other things. And the other Orishas were really sick of humanity. They were tired of the behavior and the treachery and all these different things. And, she said, I can't turn my back on my kids, regardless of who they are, how they act, whatever it is. I can't lose faith in them, because if I do, then no one will have faith in them, right? So she went running to Orumila. And the Odu of Obe Ori Ogunda was revealed, or Obe Suru. And when it was identified, he said, you need to perform the sacrifice of a ram and feed it to your icon, right? So when they fed the ram to Yemaya, she said, well, I don't want to consume this alone. I want to share it with my children. So when they broke it down in ceremonial fashion, and they were like, oh manche yo yemo jabe, which is, the verses and things that are prayed in front of the Orisha when you're presenting the animal, people started hearing that. And Eshu started, calling people, based on the fact he had some of the ram. And people started coming, and she started dispersing the pieces of the ram to everybody. And she was left with the head, and they said, based on this being the last thing you have, that's how we're going to exalt you. And that's where she became queen of the earth and mother of the world, because she fed everybody and she saved everybody. It reminds me so many times of my friends on Sunday, hey, my grandmother's cooking, come over. Or, you'd go to a place and, you'd never leave without a plate of food. Or my grandmother, and all my friends felt like I'd come home and they'd be there.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'd come through. I'd be like, man, look at all these cars and stuff. I get a little worried. I'd be like, man, And I'd walk in and it was all of them. And my grandmother would be there feeding everybody. And I'd be like, man, look at this woman, man. She didn't understand anything different. She was very old school. Like, everybody that came in, no one could leave without eating. That was the ultimate offense. So when you look at a story like Yemaya, where, she saved the world by feeding everybody, it's a perfect example of that maternity that we're so used to, within Afro-descendant culture, Afro-diasporic culture, African culture. These women, they have literally nurtured us to this point of existence, and it goes all the way back to Yemaya. But yeah, if you look at the Odu of Obeyono, it speaks of why when we sacrifice a four-legged animal that's ultimately going to be consumed, we have to break it down and present it in ceremonial fashion. The first person to ever facilitate that process was Yemaya and Orumila, right? So, at that point, she was exalted to the position that she sits in even till this day. So that's an Obeyono. Now, when you go to the Odu of Ogundameji, right? This is also in the Odu of Ogunda Trupong. It speaks of when Yemaya had two sons. And one's name was Erinle, and the other's name was Oshosi. And they were hunters. They were wild boys. They a lot of testosterone. They want to be outside. They want to go hunting. They want to fish. They want to drink palm wine all day and shekete. And, they just were being young men. And Yemaya was cool with all this because she understood boys had to be boys. But she said, I want you guys to be careful. I want you to spiritualize yourself a little bit more. Please, let me take you to visit Orumila. Let's initiate you guys. I want you to enjoy life, but do it in a safe, coherent fashion. But the boys weren't trying to listen. They didn't have time for God. So she was worried because she knew that there was a spirituality or an enemy which is ultimately translated into tetanus, right? That wanted to kill her kids because, you know, they were always handling metal objects. They didn't pay him no homage. You know, they were always killing things, you know, hunting, all these different things. He said, you know, I'm really tired of these guys. Another thing is he was envious because the boys were very talented. So Yemaya knew this, and with all of her pleading to bring her children to the Babalawo, they wouldn't go. So she went running to Orula and she said, hey, I've tried to talk to these boys. They're not listening. They're not going to come in. Is there any way I can help them, even if they don't come in? And he said, well, let's perform divination, right? For the sake of not mentioning two Odus, the Odu of Ogunnameji was revealed, where Ifa said that she could attend to her kids through her. Now, mind you, he said, I can't initiate them without them being here, but I can perform at both of them, and we should be able to get them a satisfactory result and protect them from this energy. So she was like, absolutely. So they did the ebos, and you know, the next time that Ochosi and Erinle went into the jungle, they actually cut themselves on accident, right? So they went running to their mother, of course. They're like, oh my God, we cut ourselves, tetanus, all these different things. And she said, well, I performed at both of you guys, so I don't think anything will happen, but, you know, you guys should have went with me. So a couple days go by, and, you know, they're not, you know, going through the tetanus process, and they realized that what they had done, or what their mother had done for them, had worked. And at that point, they knew that they needed to go through with their spiritual process. So they went and visited Orumila. They initiated. That's why in this Odu Baba Ogunnameji you hear, Hero se Baba Karele, Baba Karele, Adifa Fungo Chosi Abu Fungo de, where it says, Father, come home, Father, come home. That which was prophesied for Ochosi and the father hunter. So, which makes reference to Erinle or Baba Ode or whomever. But, you know, once again, looking at Yemaya, always thinking about her kids. It's never that she wanted to interrupt their process. It was simply that she wanted to protect them. She wanted them to think before acting. And, you know, as a parent, that's not always the case. We're not always going to be able to get through in a way where we can avoid them making a mistake. But what we do have to have faith in is that we've raised them accordingly, and we've instilled these values and morals in them so that they know how to behave even in our absence. You know, and Yemaya did a pretty good job about that. But just in case, she's like, let me go do ebo anyway. So this is why a mother can have ebo done to her children on their behalf through her. Not initiation, but we can save a life. So Yemaya was actually the first woman to lend herself towards this process. So as we go through various Odu and Pataki and all of these different concepts, Yemaya is the one who really set the standard for maternity. And based on her first maternal monumental acts, other women knew how to be mothers. So it reiterates her position once more. In the Odu of Ogundabede, or Ogundabilariawo, was where Orumila would suffer from night terrors. You know, people envied him. People wanted negativity for him. And he lived with his mother, right? You know, and she was very worried for him. She knew that he was a good man and that he was doing the right thing. But, you know, his detractors were just very envious of him. And they didn't want what Orula had, but they didn't want him to have it. So they were trying to kill him. So she went for divination, visited Abawalao or Awos. Ogundabede was revealed, where Ifa told her that she needed to perform sacrifice, right? And place the sacrifice in his room. So when she left the Ebo in his room, she saw that he was going through a night terror right there. And, you know, he ran into her arms. And when that happened, you know, instinctively, she started rocking him back and forth, right? And through that, he was able to relax and fall asleep, and through her maternal energy, dispel the negativity that was attacking him. They say that the Ebo and all of that, when they sent it back, killed the enemies, and Orula was able to proceed with his life in peace thanks to his mother's efforts. So here we go, right? I mean, she saw her children having an issue, especially, you know, she still held them accountable to a certain degree, but, you know, in situations where it really wasn't their fault, she wasn't going to allow anyone to take advantage of them either. You know, it's tough love. You know what's crazy, Phil, is I still haven't seen the movie Sinners.
You haven't?
May Mr. Kugler and B. Jordan forgive me. And
Yeah,
all the
man.
people that are there.
I gotta call him up because he's a homie now.
Yeah?
No, I'm kidding. I don't know.
Oh,
I just
man,
made it
man.
up. But no, he should have won 2 for both of those roles. But anyway,
Yeah, he was a beast. He was a beast. Yeah, I really got to find the time to. But I've seen so many clips. I don't know how much more of the movie I have to see. But the woman that was married to Smoke.
her name was
The one with the beads,
Her
the
name
hoodoo
is
lady.
Masomi, something like that. She's
Yeah, but in
African.
the movie, when I think of Yemaya, I think of that archetype.
That would be perfect.
I
Yeah.
sincerely do. Just the nurturing. I mean, even if you look at the prototypical, stereotypical madama, right, or the madama spirits or the conga spirits, that was really the archetype there. Just the nurturing, the motherly aspect and energy and whatnot, and that all descends from Yemaya, And even you look at concepts like Mami Wata and stuff like that. All of those fall kind of into that same archetype. But Yemaya literally rocked her children's problems away. And, the whole act of the rocking as well, when you look at the similarity with the way the waves move, how they kind of sway back and forth. I mean, I got to get to the beach soon. I need a vacation. But, I used to have this big ritual where I would go to the ocean and just sit there and talk to her, talk to Olokun, and I'd fall asleep. Thank God under an umbrella because I could be cooked. But, it's just the ocean and the water has a way about it that it'll just sway you to sleep. And that's what Ogundavede says, that the swaying is a metaphor for the ocean, Another thing is yesterday I was actually at a drumming because they gave a bata to my wife Soshun because her goddaughter, our goddaughter Kathy, crowned Ogun. Shout out to Kathy. Congratulations, Mija. And it was a great function, man. A bunch of elders, people with 40 years of Orisha, 50 years of Orisha, rocking with us. And, I remember during the Oro Seco when they were playing to Yemaya, they get into a rhythm called Agolona and things like that. And it basically is meant to recreate the stages of the movement of the water. So, like, literally it starts off slow and it starts picking up. So it's just another reiteration of how the Yorubas knew how to manifest natural things through man-made instruments and implements and processes. They were genius. They are genius, till this day. But that's Ogundavede, right? Where Yemaya would rock her children back and forth to be able to sleep and rest and things like that. Her relationship with her children always wasn't the greatest. She faced adversity as a mother as well. I mean, when you look at the Odu of Obeate, it speaks of when Yemaya had 3 sons, Elegua, Ogun, and Ochosi, or Ode, depending how you want to interpret it. And, once again, she had 3 boys. Yemaya is always seen as a man's woman, I think is a way of saying it.
Okay.
Right? She was...
like a homie.
Yeah, she was just down. When you look at her relationship with Ogun, especially in her manifestation of Ogunte, holding the machete, going to war, in the Odu of Ogunda and the Erindi Logun, as well as Obeyono, identify her eating masculine animals. She was just very, she was raw. So if you notice in the story, she always had sons. Like she always had this thing where she would create men. And, she even went to war with Ogun in the Odu of Ogunda Masa, and she actually took over the army to lead them into battle. So she was just, a man's woman. And she always had sons. She always had rambunctious kids, boys. So these 3 kids, out of them, the one who was most, the most active was Ochosi. And Ochosi would go into the jungle on his own, where Eshu and Ogun would focus more on the family business, which was like a blacksmithery. And they were hunters as well, too, but they wouldn't just disappear in the jungle like that. They always went together. Ochosi would wander, and Yemaya would tell him, Oye, please don't go into the jungle by yourself. Go with your brothers. Because, there's guys out there and there's dangerous things in there that you're not prepared for and know about. Please listen to me. But Ochosi didn't, of course. And one day, Ochosi went into the jungle and he got bewitched by an Orisha known as Osaing. And Osaing was looking for and not necessarily a slave, but a partner, somebody that, he could interact with and he could teach and, could utilize to help him because, mind you, guys missing half of his body. He needs an assistant, I think is the best way to term it. So just to make sure Ochosi didn't say no, he threw a powder on him and bewitched him. Okay. So they say, I don't know, 7 days go by. And Yemaya is getting a little worried. She's like, oh, man, I don't know. I think something happened to your brother. You guys got to go looking for him because, I don't know, Osang might have gotten him. So El Iguanogun, they organized a search party. And they went into the jungle and they found Osang's hut. And, when they saw their brother, he was unrecognizable. In such a short amount of time, he had become feral. So, they threatened Osang. Osang took the witchcraft off that caused Ochosi's amnesia. And he said, hey, man, I didn't hurt him. I was just, I'm lonely out here, and I wanted to be a mentor to the boy and things like that. So when they brought Ochosi back, when Yemaya saw him, she was terrified of him. And she said, I don't want him in the house, especially for his disobedience. And Ochosi and El Iguanogun said, well, if our brother can't come in the house, then we don't want to live with you neither. And they actually abandoned her and they went into the jungle altogether. And, Yemaya ended up staying alone and, was miserable and all these different things. She never remarried. It was a sad story. So when you look at the Odu of Obeade, when we talk about maternity and parenthood, part of it is that the same people we create and try to educate and, orient, aren't going to always listen to us. And, Yemaya had to learn a tough lesson there because through her strictness or her rigidness, she actually, got abandoned by her kids. She lost her kids. So it's one of the few examples where, Yemaya failed, where Yemaya lost, because at the end of the day, if it gets to the point where we can't speak to our children no more, or we can't be conversational anymore, as parents, we have to be the bigger people and understand that, our goal, whether our children realize it or not, is to be their friend, is to love them, is to be in communication with them, is to have the tranquility and serenity of mind of knowing that they're safe and well. And Yemaya lost that in the Odu of Obeate. So she put that on display to be an example to us to not repeat those actions because she was a little overreactive when it came to Ochosi, and it was because she loved Ochosi very much. He was era el niño lindo de la casa. He wasn't the favorite son, but he was the one that she really focused on in a different way because he had certain attributes that differentiated him from his brothers. He had other prospects, and he kind of threw them away. In this Odu, and these further Odus are the ones to come. I mean, there's a couple. I mean, when you look at the Odu like Babao Shemeji, it speaks of when Ochun was living a wild lifestyle, and she really didn't have time to take care of her kids. She left her kids with Yemaya. And Ochun said, I'll be back in, 5 days for them. And 5 days went by, and she, would be like, oh, I'll be back for them. I'll be back for them. I'll be back for them. So Yemaya was like, my sister, she's a little disorganized. I don't have any kids right now. I'll take care of my nieces and nephews. I love them very much. But, it got to the point where Yemaya's like, okay, this is becoming a little bit negligent. It's not that I have an issue taking care of them. It's very simple for me. But at the same time, I need her to assume her responsibilities and be a mother, because mom isn't just who births, it's who raises. And, Ochun was getting to the point where she was putting on costumes and wigs and things like that to be able to make it past Yemaya's house without having to explain herself. So Yemaya went to Oromila for advice. Babao Shemeji was revealed, where Ifa told her she needed to perform sacrifice to Eshu at her door. When she did that, the next time Oshun came back acting like somebody else, Eshu ripped off the wig. And Yemaya looked and said, Ochun, come and get your kids, please. What are we talking about here? Where Ochun spoke of her anxieties. She had a toxic relationship. Some people say it was with Chango. Yemaya taught her, edified her, stabilized her, helped her get her life together so that she could fulfill those maternal roles to her kids and not create trauma that would cause them to hate her. So, once again, Yemaya at her finest, willing to support her fellow woman, but at the same time willing to hold them accountable. She is the Orisha of children, childbearing as well, maternal responsibilities and instincts. Remember that who teaches you how to be a mother is your mother. You know, so who teaches you how to be a father is your father, ideally, you know, because this don't come with a book. This is really the divine aspect of what is oral tradition, because it isn't just a bunch of mythology. It's life. Like, hey, this is how you tie a tie. This is how you put a watch on. You know, this is how you put on a pair of heels. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, you learn these things from your mothers, your fathers, you know, based on, you know, your gender and, you know, all these different things. You know, so these are important things. And Babao Shemei said it, where Yemaya groomed Ochun to be the mother that she knew she could be, you know. But one thing she never tolerated was the abandoning of the children. And then there's another pataki within that same Odu that says Ochun would go and visit her kids and fulfill and all these other things, and Yemaya would take care of them. You know, but it was much more of an understanding. Yemaya knew that, you know, Ochun was trying to provide, but she didn't trust anybody with her children other than her sister. So it speaks of that unity as well. Between them.
Can I bring up something that made me think for
Sure.
a moment? So you were talking about the sea and the swaying of the sea and the ocean.
Yes, sir.
I always thought about the metaphors and how the ocean is a woman, right?
Absolutely.
And so, you know, when people get lost at sea, they say they hear a woman calling them, or they hear
That's wild.
like the waves, or it sounds like a woman calling towards it. It's in a bunch of metaphors, all the pirate movies, all that comes.
That's where the siren concept
Yeah,
comes
that's
from.
what the word I was looking
Obefun.
for. Okay, yeah, no, I was just thinking about that. Does that have any connections?
I've never been lost at sea. I'm too afraid of the water. I mean, I don't even like swimming, dog. I really, you know, I almost actually drowned as a kid. My mother saved my life. I respect water a lot, because they say that Yemaya, she's so much in love with us and so maternal with us, she'll drown us, you know? And there's even a concept that, I forgot, God, is that a pataki or is it just a concept, where they say it's better to drown than to burn to death.
Well, yeah, because I mean,
So it
I know this
makes-
sounds a little morbid, but yes,
Yeah, absolutely, because they say that, you know, Yemaya,
you
she
just go to sleep.
Exactly, you know, as opposed to Shango, who's this, you know, much more, you know, intimidating energy and much more destructive, right? There's even a story where Yemaya was like the first social worker. She was like the first DCF.
Really?
Yeah, where Shango was negligent with his children, and Yemaya actually took the kids away. And Shango went through like this huge, like, you know, awakening, you know, where he wanted to get clean. You know, they say he had some habits and stuff like that. Let me be careful, because everybody's like, the Orishas didn't do drugs. Okay.
Oh yeah,
Whatever. You know, come on, get out of here. You know what I mean?
I saw that comment.
Yeah, that's how you know when people study or they don't study. So, you know,
Yeah,
Chango had a habit. He had various habits, palm wine and beyond. And Yemaya took the kids away because of negligence, you know? And he lost his mind. He was contemplating suicide, all these things. And he said, yo, I got to get my life right because my kids need me. And I tell you, you know, you want to talk about paternity. You know, everybody thinks about Obatala or Rumila. Chango was an incredible father. He was a very impressive father because, you know, it was the first thing that held him really accountable. Shango was an Orisha that he didn't have to answer to nobody. And nobody bent him, no one broke him like his children. There was nothing that man wouldn't do for his kids. Like he got off of habits, he changed his character, he humbled himself. There's a version of the story where Chango kidnapped the kids back and Yemaya was going to drown him to death. And the reason she did it is because he was holding, you know, the Ibeji in his arms. You know what I'm saying? And he said, you know, I'm a changed man. Please let me show you. It's an emotional story. And Yemaya allowed it. That's why if you look at the Ibeji in the Lukumi tradition, in the Odu of Oturadi, one wears red and one wears blue. Because they say those were the children that Yemaya and Chango had together. Ochebara says it was Chango and Ochung. What can I say? Different, you know, different Odus, different realities, different interpretations, all these different things. But to the point, Yemaya, I mean, once again, this lady's credentials are wild. I mean, if she is the mother or the caretaker of the Ibeji, I mean, the Ibeji are a concept of procreation, period. I mean, when you look at the Yoruba people, they say that due to their consumption of the yam, the African yam, that's why they have the highest percentage of twin births in Nigeria, right? In the world, you know, emanating from Nigeria through the world. And Yemaya has a part in that. So that could be another interpretation as to why. just an amazing woman. You know, I know there's another pataki I'm forgetting, but Lord knows she doesn't need another one to corroborate her stance and position. Very emotional Orisha for me. One that I don't bother a lot, to be frank with you. One that really doesn't ask for much. It's ironic, and I'll say this as well. In the Odu of Esekangolari, that the Suka, my own, is actually where the Segi beads manifested, and those are the beads of Yemaya. So, you know, they're also the beads for Olokun, and some lineages they use them for Egbe. But just an Orisha that's played a huge role in my life. I was the Odu Odiche and my Mano Orula, and I really was a son of the two waters, you know. And when we talk about Las Dos Agua, it's a concept that is really for the people who within Ifa have the Odu Odiche or Oshedi, right? It's not the one that's in the Erindi Logun, forgive me, at least, you know, interpretively, being that, you know, neither here nor there, other concepts. But the real child of La Hosawa is whoever has that Odu in Ifa. So I was Odiche, and I'll never forget, you know, I was like, okay, who's going to crown me? And I met so many people and knew so many people. I was like, I don't know. And I remember when I met my godmother, I said, that's a mother. That's a person that, you know, you can confide in, you can respect, you can listen to. The kind of person that could reprimand you and you'd be thankful for it, you know?
Yeah.
And I said, I'm taking my coconuts and candles there. And Yemaya said yes. She was a proponent of asking. And Yemaya, I think Yemaya gave me tawa mei, so everybody was like on edge, you know? And she did it to me and my mom. And she fulfilled in every way, shape, or form. So God bless you, Madrina. And if you look at the Odu Odiche, is where Yemaya gave all the wealth and prosperity to Ochung's children. And me being a son of Ochung, the best person that could have crowned me was a daughter of Yemaya. So very appreciative, very emotional episode for me. Yeah. Thinking back on all those amazing times and interactions. I'm sure Poroye as well with hers. And, you know, to all the children of Yemaya, definitely the women as well. You know, it's a big responsibility because, you know, as parents, we all have that responsibility. But when you're literally the child of the Orisha that set the bar, you know, my compliments and my best wishes, because it's quite shoes to fill. And all we can do is attempt, you know, and expect the best results.
Yeah, and if this episode did resonate with you, make sure you are commenting and make sure you're sharing and make sure you're doing all that lovely stuff. But also...
Okay. Oh,
it's that time. Yeah, it's time that we show some love and acknowledge the people who love the channel.
We love it.
Real simple, guys. The 1,600, 1,700 videos on the channel. We have membership platform. Real easy to do. Just hit the join button. That takes you to our platform to where we can have extra shows, discounts on merch, early releases, more videos about certain comments that people leave, you name it. So I'm going to continue the trend that we've been doing, just going down the list here about people who have recently joined. So let's go ahead and start with Big Ron.
Okay.
Supporter, 1 month.
Big thank you.
We got Michael, just Michael. I don't know how we got just Michael, but all right. We got Michael.
He's an OG. I mean, YouTube. Yeah. I don't know who you paid for that one, man.
Yeah, 1 month. We got
nice.
Tertian Duck.
Thank you.
2 months. They are a supporter as well.
Okay.
We got Tell It To... Wait, hold on. I'm going to try and read this.
Tell It To My Heart.
Tell It How It Is, Black people.
Okay. Why not?
All right. They are a supporter at 2 months. And Imaz, they're a supporter at 2 months.
As you should be.
Oh, you got Rafi Beats up here.
Rafi
Beats is a 2 months. All right, I know Rafi Beats. Okay, we got Princess Zaraya, a VIP member,
Very
2
nice.
months.
Shout out to the VIPs. Thank
you. And MK Robinson, 804, at a supporter with 2 months.
Awesome. 2 months, guys. Thank you for being members. Let somebody know about it. Can't wait to see you guys at the workshops this year in Atlanta and New York. Botanica Candles and More is up and running for all of your product and service spiritual needs. We do ship. If you can't watch us on YouTube, be sure to listen to us on all those major platforms such as iHeartRadio, etc. Please be sure to subscribe. A big thank you from all of us here at Botanica Candles and More and Our Roots podcast. And until next time, family, see the light.
Baba Joseph showed the path today. Baba knows the way, we follow the signs. He walks with the Orisha through